When we decided to make a video, especially for the Association of Humanistic Psychology, I really wanted to interview Paul for this particular meeting. And the reason is that I've known Paul for 24 years. And for the first 10 years of that time, he and I were married and we had 2 children. And we actually were involved in the very early days of the growth movement in the 60s in the west coast of America. And also then we came back to England, and we started in England the very first growth centre in Europe, which was called Clare, and involved ourselves with the setting up of the Association for Humanistic Psychology in Europe as well. Paul and I have actually paralleled our paths in all of these years in terms of being therapists and working with people and training people to be therapists. But something has happened for Paul which is very, very unique. And I think I can only say that he really has found out who he is. He has realized himself. And I have an incredible respect for him, and I guess this is a little bit unusual too in an ex-wife, that here I sit with him and I'm really learning with him. He has set up a project here in northern Italy, and it's a 6-month project, and 60 people are involved, and I'm one of those 60. And the idea of the 6 months is to realize who we are in the 6-month period. And now we're 5 months already past, and I really think it's working. And the reason it's working is twofold. One is that Paul is an extraordinary teacher, and the other reason is that the people here are totally committed to finding out the truth. They're totally committed to this project here. And I really hope that in the next 30 minutes something of the quality of this man will come across. So this interview is actually going to be sent to a conference for humanistic psychology, which is held in May. And it brings up something for me, because we were both very involved with the foundation of the European Conference of the European Association of Humanistic Psychology. And in those days, it was 20 years ago, it was just a few of us in a little flat in North London. And somehow the process that was happening for all of us that were involved then in the growth movement felt very important. And I wonder if you could say something about, if you feel that was so, if that process at that time was important, and what it did.
Well, I don't know the history of psychology and therapy well, but what I know was up until I met humanistic psychology, I wasn't interested in what was going on. It wasn't effective. It didn't have an impact. And then when we met the growth movement, humanistic psychology in America, then it meant something. It was action. It was experiential. It was something that happened and we could be involved in. And when I found it opening, well, when we helped to open it in England, there was a whole change happening, a whole change of gear. And what I'm seeing is we have to keep changing gear. So the original therapy, whatever that was, evolved and then stuck, and somebody had to break away and evolve, and then they stuck and somebody broke away. We've got to keep breaking away. And now is the time for the biggest break of all.
And that, I have to ask then, what do you see as the biggest break of all?
Well, therapy is finished, and all processes as such are finished. The planet as it is finished. This whole era, the whole experiment is over. And we've got to wake up to that. Now, it's been finished for some time. Then we've been told, various people have come here to tell us that it's finished, and we haven't listened to them. We usually killed them, and then afterwards worshipped them. But the experiment is over, and we have to get that and wake up quick, because there's not much time. And so, in one way, humanistic psychology is working on our conditioning, but it's not looking at the conditioning about the conditioning. So humanistic psychology is saying we have to get over the conditioning, but that's a conditioning. We can jump out now. We can jump out because there's a new phase to the planet, there's a new energy happening, and also we've always been able to jump out. The experiment needed to go through various things, which was an experiment of experiencing, of duality on this planet. It's over. And now we must take nothing for granted. Whatever we're standing on, we've got to pull it away. And if we find we're standing on something else, we've got to pull that away and pull it away. So an association, any association, has a danger to itself because it's an association. It's taking a certain amount of conditioning. It's taken certain things to be an association. An association has to be continually dissolving if it's going to stay up with what's happening.
As you're talking, I'm picturing the kind of people that I know, old colleagues of mine, who are going to be listening to this video. And in all of my connections with them recently, I found quite a lot of them actually a little closed. So not everybody. And when you came back from Lanzarote, you talked about the difficulty of working with therapists, that there was something there that was quite difficult. And I wonder why people whose life is, one would think, about personal growth, are perhaps rather more difficult to work with than others.
Now, the reason why not only therapists, but nobody wants to listen at the moment is they don't want to see, feel, admit that it's over. The way we've built this planet is over. The whole thing is over. It doesn't work. The money's not working. Relationships are not working. Relationships between countries, relationships between people. We've built blown a hole in the ozone. AIDS is rampant. Our system's over. It doesn't work. Now what that means is, if it doesn't work, what we keep trying to do is, how can we patch it? How can we put another band-aid on? It's not going to work. And the planet is telling us, it's not working. You've had your chance to do it your way. It doesn't work. What I'm going to do, the planet is saying, is I am going to clear it. Now, if people are flexible enough and they're ready to listen, and those changes can happen inside, the planet won't have to do it. But everybody's holding on and holding on and holding on.
I want to just go back a little to therapy, because that's what so many of these people are involved with. And in a sense, I see that when you say this, and my own experience, it's tired, it's old, there's time for something new. And yet there are so many people who haven't had that first awakening. Do you see any value in therapy? Is there a value for those people?
Let me answer something else. Potentially, the therapists could be the people that could lead humanity out of its mess, because they're trained in some way. They have looked at themselves. They have looked more than most people have looked. The trouble is they're stuck with that. Now, when you say, is there any value in therapy, there is a value in people who have a higher level of consciousness and sharing that. The therapy, the techniques, they're all over. They're all over. Now, the trouble is this: to get this level of consciousness that's going to be needed, that's going to help, is you've got to let go of everything. It doesn't mean to say you get rid of it. It doesn't mean to say you leave your job or you leave your wife or you leave your house, but you get rid of it. You stop being attached to it. You become free and you become total. And that's the trouble with humanistic psychology and the people in it. They're not total. It's almost like a hobby. It's sleepy. If you remember when we did the first encounter group in England, and they were all therapists, and they all came to watch. Nobody wanted to experience anything. Nobody wanted to take a risk. Remember that first group? Involved. It's without being involved. It's without being involved. It's without being involved. It's without being involved. You can't. You've got to be it. And if you want to be in this new jump of consciousness, you've got to be in it. And to be in it, you've got to let go. And that's the trouble. Any new leap, you have to let go totally of where you are. And that's what people are afraid of.
You know, when you're saying this, I also know that there are some people who are involved with, probably with this conference, who actually are moving to other ways of working that would say that they very much are not therapists anymore. And in fact, the very title of this conference, you know, SOS2 Self-Realization, implies exactly what you're talking about. Do you have anything to say about that? Do you see that people who are attending this conference may in fact be moving in this same direction that we're moving in here?
Well, it's a possibility for anybody, any moment. I would forget the SOS. That's the past. What I would look at is self-realization, because that's what's needed now. Now, for self-realization, anybody can start now. Anybody, right now. But what they've got to say is, this is the most important thing in my life. Self-realization is my focus, and everything else takes place behind it. Now, if you don't say that, you will not get it. Or if you do get it, by some aberration it happens, you go crazy. Or you go into what you call an altered state for a week, back out again, and then you back out again. Now, if you make it your priority, you're halfway there. And then you listen, and you listen to what's needed and where you need to go, and you go there and you do it. And then when self-realization comes in, instead of coming in as a bang and then going out as a bang, it starts to come in. You start to see you're looking at things differently. Your life is changing. Everything's changing. And it doesn't go away. It just builds up and builds up. And self-realization isn't something that goes bang and then you're there. It's something that one day you just realize it's always been there. But then there's something else, and something else, and something else. And in a way, the journey just starts with self-realization.
I'm wondering about, I know that as you say this, it takes such courage. I know for me it has had to be my priority. It is everything my life is about. And it's almost as if it's a question of survival. I mean, that word comes in very strongly. Will I survive if I let go? Is there anything you can say that can be helpful to people in that process of letting go of that, survival?
Well, let's look at it another way. Survival's not working anyway. You are an exceptional person with an exceptional capabilities. Now, part of that is because who you were in other lives. We'll leave that. The reason you have is because you have let go. You've been successful in many things. You've taken it to a peak and you've let it go. Totally let it go and let everything go with it. And then you start it again and you've taken that to its peak and you've let that go. Now, that's what's needed. That's the key, is you've got to go totally into it. And when you've reached the peak of that, drop it completely and start again.
So these people may have to let go of their successful practices, their successful jobs, their successful...
There's no may to it. You have to let go. Now, it doesn't mean to say you won't have your successful practice, but you've got to let go of it. You've got to stop possessing it and thus being possessed by it. You have to start again each moment. Now what's needed? Now what's appropriate? Now what's the best thing for me to do in this moment? It may mean letting that go. It may not. But there are no compromises if you want freedom. Everything that you possess possesses you on every single level. Now, as I said before, these therapists have been looking. They've got a basis. They could be the new leaders. But the trouble is they're so fixed in their ways. They keep getting fixed because it becomes successful or just the same as anyone else. No courage to drop it. It's survival. If they would let that go, wake up to something new, then they would wake up. And when they wake up, then there will be examples of waking up. And then in a way they'll continue what they're doing, but in a totally different way. They won't be doing it. It will be happening because that vibration will have awoken in them.
I'd like to come back a little bit to what we're doing here, to your work. And it feels to me as if the very foundation of what we do, the basis of what we do here, is about the truth. It's about speaking our truth, in every moment speaking our truth. And in fact, truth seems to here to be the pathway, one of the pathways to self-realization. Could you talk about that, the importance of truth?
Well, truth is there always, and we cover it with lies. And we're all lying practically all the time. Whenever we're talking, we both have an inner dialogue that we don't share. Our whole lives is built on lies. And it's built up over the truth. Now, if we want to start on this path to find out who we are, we have to cut through everything. We've got to cut through everything we've been told and everything we're telling ourselves. It doesn't matter about whether you're truthful to somebody else. You've got to be truthful to yourself, and for that you've got to be much more aware, and you've got to look more. Who am I? What's really going on? What did I really say? I just said that I knew that. Do I really know that? Or is that something somebody told me? Is that my experience? Am I really sharing myself this moment? We have to be ruthless for ourselves to find the truth. Otherwise there's no foundation. We're just building it up on a new set of conditioning, which is labeled better. A new set. We've got to cut and cut and cut until we're down to the bottom. We start from there. If ever we find ourselves leaving the truth, cut it and come back again. Go back rather than forwards. Come back to the truth. When that's your truth, you can move ahead again. If ever you found you've gone out of your truth, cut it until you come back to your truth. Now, in conferences, in everything, we lie. We're just lying. And we lie because we're unconscious. Often we don't intend to lie. We're just not conscious about what we're saying, about what we're doing. It's about what we're doing. We're asleep. What the new, whatever we're going to call it is, the new therapy is nothing more than waking people up. Everything that this person needs to know is contained there. All you've got to do is wake them up to it. And you cannot wake them up until you've woke up. As soon as you woke up, then you can see that in the other person, and you're more likely to be able to guide them towards that.
When you're talking about the truth, I realized that before I came here, all my life, I've always been a very truthful person. I've tried to stay with my truth, and yet I realized, especially in the last 2 months actually, and I've been here 6 months now, I've just realized how I lied to myself. That in fact I wasn't telling the truth, the subtle layers. And it's excruciating. In the past month I feel as if I've gone through surgery. It's almost as if a scalpel goes in and there's scooping up those places in there. It's so difficult to know that you're not.
But it doesn't matter whether you know or you're not. It's, are you looking? If you're looking, you'll find it. If you're not really looking, you'll never find it, because you'll make sure you don't. If you're really looking, you'll find it. It's excruciating only because you're holding on. If you don't hold on, you see it, don't judge it, just, right, that's what I've been doing. Move ahead. Forget the past, forget the past. Don't even bother with the past, about what you did or how you could have done. Forget it, it's over, it's finished, it never happened. Just, right, I'm going to do my best not to do that again. I'm going to be conscious again. I found a new level of consciousness. I'm going to make this new level of consciousness my platform until I find another one. Forget the past.
I have to come back to this truth. This truth process, this process of really having everything there, showing, is so vulnerable. It's so tender, it's so sensitive, it's a rawness that's left there for me. And if this is the way towards self-realization, and I think about the planet as it is now, and mankind going through this process, it seems nearly impossible that people could go through this.
Just the mind. We are zombies. This system is capable of so much. It's so sensitive. It's so capable. We work at a fraction of what is possible. If we keep being more sensitive, if we keep waking up, we become more alive, you become more radiant. Each person that wakes up starts to affect their planet. Now, you know, we've had it many times here. People have had an awakening here. Something has broken through, and somebody from their family has called, and the person had a breakthrough. They say, I don't know what's happening with me, or I suddenly started seeing things different. My whole life has changed. No communication between the two. This person woke up, it affected that one. As each person wakes up, it's going to start to affect the planet. The whole planet's going to wake up. It has to wake up. If it doesn't wake up, it's going to be shaken. Now, the way you put it, it's a problem. You wouldn't have it any other way. We're here for an adventure. We're not here to be safe. It's boring. It's so boring to be safe. It's so boring to be predictable. So you find a certain level and you live in it. And it becomes predictable. It's boring. That isn't what this planet's about. This planet is about experiencing new things, going out, exploring yourself.
I really agree. That's the adventure for me in life. And the other thing I just wanted to say was that truth is so important here. And the other thing that really has been so vital here has been meditation too. And I wonder if you could say something about that.
Well, in this context, let's not talk about meditation. Let's start from somewhere else. The first thing is you make a decision to wake up. You say, I'm not sure what this is or where it came from or where it's going to, but I want to know of what it is capable. I want to know its full capabilities. I want to know everything there is to know about it. And that's the most important thing in my life. You're 50% there. After that, you start becoming aware each moment of everything, choicelessly. So, whatever you were just saying before, I just did that. I just did that. That's all. Not that that was wrong, that was good, that was bad. I just did that. I see that. So you start to move through your life with more awareness, choicelessly. Now, to know more about yourself, you have to slow down. If there's something in the way you really need to do something, do it. You've got some built-up energy, throw it out through bioenergetics or some other thing. Just get rid of it. And then you start to slow down. You become more quiet. Then what is absolutely necessary is to spend some time each day just sitting. Don't call it meditation. Sitting. Eyes closed or half open. Sit and watch. When you go to sleep, if there's anything you're having difficulty with, just as you're going to sleep, just request your higher self to help you in the night. When you wake up in the morning, just be aware. See if there's any messages come through for you. Sit and listen. There are dimensions and dimensions and dimensions, all contained here, available for you. If you sit, you'll hear your messages. Your disturbances will just settle down. And then move with more awareness, more sensitivity, and the whole process takes care of itself. If you go close to somebody who has reached that level of vibration, of awakening, and you come close to them, it'll start that level in you. It's yours. It's nothing to do with them. They're not giving you anything. But it helps that to wake in you. So it's helpful to be around those people and maybe ask them, do you have anything to say? Do you have any suggestions? But everything you need is there. You just have to become slower, quieter, more sensitive. Listen, and then have the courage to follow your own messages.